All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Hope you're having a great day. The other day, I dropped a video, and I was going over who the Yankees' first baseman should be this coming season in 2022. Got a lot of positive feedback in it. You guys were dropping hella comments. Let me know who you want, and I want you to do the same today because we're going over shortstops. We did 4 guys last time for first base. We're doing 4 today, and yeah, let's just get right into it. I know I just slammed on the table. You guys hate when I do that. I'm going to try my best not to do that, but yeah, let's get into it. Drop a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and the first one I just want to get out of the way because I'm seeing it a lot, and you know, if it were last year, I would still kind of understand, but it's time to forget about Didi Gregorius. Now, before anything, let me say real quick, because I don't want to spend too much time on him, you can both appreciate what Didi did in pinstripes, which he did a lot. He had back-to-back 4+ WAR seasons, 3 20-homer seasons in a row. You can appreciate the good that he gave us in pinstripes, and he definitely did give us a lot of good. But you also have to acknowledge how bad he is currently. He's coming off a brutal year, one of the worst offensive seasons in baseball. Played 103 games, batted .209, 270 on base, 370 slugging. That's a 639 OPS, guys. 71 OPS plus. He had a negative WAR. So he has regressed significantly on both offense and defense with age. So it's time to accept he's not the same guy anymore. He's not the answer at shortstop for the Yankees. And yeah, it's just time to move on. Speaking of moving on, Carlos Correa, that's the next guy we're going to talk about. And he is 100% the best shortstop available. And probably the best, unless I'm forgetting anybody, the best shortstop overall in baseball. And he's just 27 years old, and he's going to get a big payday, but rightfully so. We'll get into that big payday in a second. Well, if you're unaware, he's coming off probably the best season of his career, put a career high 7.2 WAR, played 148 games, 279 average, 366 on base, 485 slugging, 26 homers, and a 131 OPS plus. And he is amazing on defense. He had 20 defensive runs saved last year and 12 outs above average. He is 100%, like I said, the best shortstop on the market. He's a very complete player. Now, to get into the obvious, the elephant in the room, and the Yankees say it isn't, but obviously his part in the Astros cheating scandal is going to play a role in how the team feels about him and how the clubhouse welcomes him in. You know, Aaron Judge was consulted about bringing in Giancarlo Stanton. Obviously the Yankees are going to, or may already have done this, consult Aaron Judge about how he feels about Carlos Correa, because you can't just bring in a guy that everybody's going to hate. You know, they have to embrace him. Clubhouse chemistry, I do believe in that. So, you know, this is all things that the Yankees have to think about. And, you know, as for the contract, he's going to get over $325 million. That's what Corey Seager got. Without a doubt, he's going to exceed that number. So with that as the minimum asking price, the Yankees are going to have to spend big. Thing is, they have absolutely no excuse not to. The only excuse not to sign Carlos Correa is if there's still animosity towards him in the clubhouse, which that, honestly, I would understand. 2017, it is kind of long ago, but in reality, it's not that long ago. We don't know what went on in 2019. I still have suspicions. If you ask me, gun to my head, the Astros did cheat in 2019. Anyways, that would be the only excuse the Yankees have if the clubhouse isn't willing to welcome him in. But as for the money, you just reset the luxury tax. So you have absolutely no excuse not to spend. I mean, you know, you should never have an excuse. The Yankees are the second most valuable franchise in North American sports. So you don't ever really have an excuse, but especially this year, do not let money get in the way of signing the best shortstop on the market. Moving on. Andrelton Simmons. And if you guys can tell, we're kind of going bad, good here. That's the theme of this video. And Andrelton Simmons, you know, he's so bad offensively, it's not even funny. For those not familiar, Andrelton Simmons, 32 years old. He just put up the worst offensive season of his career, but that's really not saying much at all. He had a 57 OPS plus last year, which obviously that's brutal, but it's not like it was an aberration. You know, he has a career OBP of 313, a career slugging of 369, which is good for a career OPS of 683. But, you know, all we hear about, and it's true, his defense is really good. Andrelton Simmons is a defensive wizard, but at the same time, let me actually compliment his defense first. Since 2017, he has 79 defensive runs saved, which leads all of baseball, obviously. But the Yankees, who were so inconsistent on offense last year, we knew going into this offseason, we got to add 2 impact bats. The offense is basically what we have to address. So by bringing in Andrelton Simmons, it just seems like, what's the point? It would be inexcusable to bring him in. If you want to bring him in as a backup shortstop, fine. Honestly, I'm actually for that. I endorse that. But if the Yankees, that's the only time I'll be, you know, a part of the crowd that's boycotting going to games. I will honestly, there's a good chance I will just refuse to give the Yankees any money if they go out and make Andrelton Simmons their starting shortstop this year. That would be absolutely absurd, and I'm just going to assume it's not going to happen because there are superstars available at this position, one of them being Carlos Correa, and the next being the 4th and final guy we're going to get into, which is Trevor Story. And yeah, along with Correa, Story, who's 29, by the way, I would be honestly very satisfied with him. Now, he's coming off a down year for his standards compared to the rest of his career, but if you take his 2021 season and put it on the 2021 Yankees, his 4.2 WAR would literally be second on the team behind Aaron Judge. So, you know, it was a down year, but still a very solid year for Trevor Story. And let's be clear, Carlos Correa, he is the better player. He's better on both offense and defense, but like I said, he's going to cost north of $300 million. And while, you know, I'll never endorse the Yankees being cheap, as I kind of just talked about, there is a world where signing Trevor Story makes sense, and that would be a short-term, high AAV deal. And on Story's end, like I said, he's coming off a down year for his standards, so he may want to, sign a short, prove-it deal to reestablish his value. We're talking about a guy that a year ago might have been in the conversation to get over $300 million as well. Now, probably around like the $200 million range, which, I wouldn't blame him at all if he takes that. I would take it probably myself. But if the Yankees maybe offered him $35 million a year over 3 years with an opt-out after the first season, that could work out perfectly for Story, because if he has a great year, all right, word, opt out, and then go sign an even bigger deal. And for the Yankees, if they're apparently so high on these kids, which I understand being high on these kids, but also at the same time, I know how prospects work. I'm not a prospect hugger by any means. I'm honestly probably the biggest Anthony Volpe fan in the world, but I'm still hesitant about, he's in single A. We don't know how good this of a player this kid's going to be, right? I was just talking about it last week in the first base video. Greg Bird was supposed to be Matt Olson, and look where we're at now, So I don't want to not sign one of these star shortstops just because we have kids that we're counting on to be stars in a couple years, right? But in this case, if you were to get Story, it serves really as the perfect stopgap. If you can get him on a short-term, high AAV deal, I think that's something that I would be able to stomach. Not just stomach, I would be happy if the Yankees signed Story for sure. Now, last thing, and this is a legitimate cause for concern among most, and I understand it for sure, and that is his home road splits. Trevor Story at home in Colorado is a .972 OPS hitter. On the road, he's been barely above league average at 752, and that's for his entire career. So it is a very large sample size, really. However, there's not a black and white answer to this. There never is when it comes to home and road splits, regardless of the player played in Colorado or not. For starters, many players perform better at home. And second, when you dig deep, you realize Story may just need some time to get adjusted. And Adam Morris of Lone Star Ball, he did some really cool analysis on how Story performed in the first few games of the road trip compared to later on. And take a look at this, guys. Last year, he was very ineffective at the plate over his first 3 games of a road trip, but in the games following, he absolutely raked. He slugged .574. And then take a look at the largest sample size, 2018 to 2021. He's a much better hitter after getting adjusted to being away from Coors Field. So obviously doesn't guarantee anything, but that's also how I feel about home road splits in general. Really don't know until we see him play elsewhere. You know what I mean? But yeah, so those are the 4 guys that I chose to go over for this. For me, in terms of pecking order, it's Carlos Correa and then Trevor Story. Those are the only 2 acceptable options for me. Simmons would be nice as a backup. Didi, absolutely not. Let me know if there's anybody I'm forgetting about. I don't consider myself forgetting about anybody, but maybe there's an under-the-radar name that you think the Yankees should trade for. But the 2 big premier guys, Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, I'd be fine with either one. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comment section below. And yeah, drop a like, drop a comment. I already said that. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you guys next time. Let's go, Yankees.